12, I think we're up to part 4. We're definitely up to stanza 4, so we're probably up to part 4. I can't believe I'm talking 15 minutes about these stanzas. But here we go. So before we actually go into the poem itself, I want to, we were talking about Henry V and the Crispian Day speech. So I want to just let you have a look at that so that you can see what it some of the things that it was saying. I'm not going to do the whole of the speech. Definitely worth reading it, or even just getting online and looking at the Kenneth Branagh version of it, because it's quite extraordinary. But this particular speech is the Crispian Day speech itself was actually delivered by Harry, the king, to convince his soldiers and motivate his soldiers to go to war, and then Shakespeare eternalised it in his rendition of the history. But I'm not going to read through all of it, but it just this little bit down here, which is really important. And Crispian shall ne'er go by from this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England now abed shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, while any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's day. Okay, why is that important? Or why do I think that's important? I think when we get this understanding of the glorification of war, there is this idea. So in that Crispin's Day speech, he's saying if you were not a man enough to be at the battle, you shall hold your manhood cheap. I mean, you're not a man. You're not a man at all if you haven't gone to war, which links in with Dolce in that line from Horace of Dolce decorum est pro patria mori, this sweet and fitting to die for the one's country, this continuous propaganda, if you will, about going to war and glorifying war. And Owen is talking about that here. Happy the soldier at home, with not a notion how somewhere every dawn some men attack and many sighs are drained. He's actually saying, we've had a slight turn here. We're now talking about an actual happiness. So in the earlier stanzas, we had this idea that of emptiness, of this thing that could not be filled, and this thing that was sealed up. And here we're now moving on to the ones who aren't here at all. And it's like, you are happy if you're not here because you don't know the truth. And so we're starting to get really into the nuts and bolts of it now, where Owen told us he wants to write the truth of war and the pity of war. And here we have these soldiers who are at home who aren't ready yet to be there. And so they have no idea of what it's really like. They don't understand the truth. Okay. So happy the soldier home with not a notion, so not an inkling, not an idea, how somewhere every dawn some men attack. And here we have this, you've got the repetition of some here, somewhere, some men. Again, the sibilants in these lines, soldiers somewhere, some men, sighs. We've got a lot of sibilants going on in this these couple of lines. But there's an ambiguity there, somewhere, some men. There's a disconnect between something specific and something that is vague, which I think follows through. So that's those somewhere and some men also is part of that lexical chain of dull, fade, and this idea of something that's not sharp. It's not clear. There's definite discourse that promotes a lack of clarity throughout this poem. It also suggests the naivety of the soldiers at home who are waiting to go. And that follows through with, and many sighs are drained. So here we go back to that motif of blood that goes through a lot of the poems, this idea of draining, the blood draining away. Um, and the sighs, these are the sighs of the body as it leaves the body, the dying soldier. Um, and also the sighs is connotes a sadness as well. Um, Drained is a really specific word choice. It is this idea of the blood draining away, um, but it's more than that. It's their hopes, their dreams, the imagination of the last stanza. If they had imagination, it's now leaving them. Everything's leaving them. And it's also, I think, the idea, even if it's not death, many sighs are drained. This is their insensibility, everything just fallen away from them. Happy the lad whose mind was never trained, his days are worth forgetting more than not. I think a couple of things here. Firstly, with mind here and forgetting, these link to the dullness of up here in stanza 2, dullness best solves. And again, it's part of that lexical chain of not being sharp, of not having clarity. And we're now talking about the new recruits, and these are these men, the lad. Notice the word lad. It's not the soldier. It's not the man. It's the lad, which is the boy. It's the youth, and I think you can link that to Anthem and to Dolce with this idea of how young they are when they're going there, and also this is the young boy who's told that lie of Dolce Decorum Est. But it's also the idea we can link this stanza back up to stanza 1 up here. These are the men, gaps for filling, losses who might have fought longer, but no one bothers. These recruits are filling those physical gaps, the literal gaps in the trenches line. The front line is withering, and so these new recruits are going to be thrown in there. Okay, his days are worth forgetting more than not. Here we have this is, the daily routine that he's going through at home, and it's he's bored. But there's a suggestion that you're better off being bored than actually coming to the war and being aged by the war and being destroyed and being part of that group that needs to be filled. That is these losses. He sings along the march. This which we march taciturn because of dusk. There's a contradiction there, a juxtaposition. He's singing, he's happy. He actually is happy because he's innocent, naive, and has no idea what's happening. These two lines link, and then it goes on. We march taciturn. Here again, we've got this contrast between the youth, the lad who's at home getting ready to come, and the silence that's coming with the war. Taciturn is someone who doesn't communicate, is surly or moody or grumpy, but there's a silence there. So we've got this contrast between these two words here of singing and taciturn here. And then we move into dusk, that moment between day and night. And dusk is usually a symbol of the end, the morning. So here, every dawn is a symbol of the beginning, and here we have a symbol of the end. So you could possibly link this to futility and this life cycle that has no point. But they're aware, they're quiet, they're silent, they're not communicating, because dusk here is a representation of death. They know death is coming. The lad at home doesn't know death is there. The long, forlorn, relentless trend from larger day to huger night. Those lines make you want to cry. Here we have, again, the lexical chain, this idea of dusk, huger night. It gives a shadow and a lack of clarity, and it supports that idea of dullness and emptiness. And I love the long vowel sounds that come from long, forlorn, relentless trend, from larger day to huger night. So we've got a change here in the rhythm. And these lines stand out because we've actually just shifted suddenly into iambic pentameter. And so we get this rhythm of the feet marching along and in silence. And it matches, I think, with the trudge that we get in Dulce Decorum Est. And this idea that larger day to huger night, it's big, and then it goes to even bigger. Death is here in the day, and yet it grows even bigger. It's an even bigger threat at night, and the huger night is the symbolization of death, and it becomes quite ominous, this stanza. Okay, we're going to stop there because we're going to go into stanza 5, so I'll start stanza 5 in another video.